Critters and humans, it's good to see you all. Okay, so the Yoga Sutras, we're getting to some of the meaty stuff. We're going to start with Yoga Sutra 2.30, which is the beginning of the discussion of the 8 limbs of yoga. Well, we've been told we're going to talk about it, and then we were told what they were. And today we're going to start with the first limb. So I'll just read out loud the English part, just like I always do. Yama, which is the first limb of yoga. Yama consists of nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-greed. So just to paraphrase that, the first limb of yoga, he calls the abstinences: nonviolence, truthfulness, or not lying, non-stealing, continence. This one's sometimes translated as celibacy, the word brahmacharya in Sanskrit. Sometimes they translate it as celibacy. Here it's continence. I like the word moderation. And non-greed. So not wanting more than you have, or maybe what other people have. So in the discussion, he says something pretty important in the very beginning. He says, each of the 8 limbs is equal to the others and necessary. So we're on the first limb, which has 5 parts. And he's saying they're all important, even though we're going to spend a lot of time on this one. They're all important. So that first. And then he goes a little bit into what they mean. We're going to spend one sutra at a time on each of these. So just at a very high level, there's a little bit of discussion of what they mean. And I think what he distinguishes on the first one is pretty interesting. He says ahimsa, which was translated as nonviolence. He says ahimsa is not causing pain. Some authors translate it as non-killing, but it is not that. Himsa, the word himsa, that part of ahimsa means not to cause pain. And when you put a in front of a Sanskrit word, it means the opposite. He says killing is different from causing pain. Causing pain can be even more harmful than killing. Even by your words, even by your thoughts, you can cause pain. Even by your thoughts, you can cause pain. All right, I'm going to actually add a second sutra in here before we kind of dive in. The second sutra, 31, says, these great vows are universal. So he calls them great vows, Mahabhratam. They're universal. Which, for those of us that are kind of Western mindset, background, training, these are clearly familiar. The Judeo-Christian systems say the same thing. But he goes on to say they're not limited by class, place, time, or circumstance. I like what he says in the description. They can never be broken by any excuse, not time, place, purpose, social or caste rule, not by winter, summer, morning, or evening, or by the country or the nationality. So these principles are universal. Not harming, being truthful, not stealing, living in moderation, and non-greed. if you read the description here, he said, for people who aren't one pointed toward the yogic goal, these vows can be modified. And an example of that is brahmacharya. Right? If you're a sannyasin and you're on the yogic path and you've taken the vows, celibacy is actually the translation of brahmacharya. If you're a householder, clearly that is not the intention. The yogis don't want us to stop reproducing. So there's context, but that doesn't mean that they don't apply to everybody. So I'm going to invite us into a practice today that's really about the way our thoughts are also meant to be guided by these principles. So nonviolence, not lying. It's about our thoughts as well as our actions. Any questions or comments before we begin a practice? Okay, well, create your posture for practice. See everybody. Clearly, if you're on YouTube, I can't see you, but even here on Zoom, some of the folks have their camera off. So whether you're sitting or reclining, be on purpose. And close or lower your eyes. So starting to cultivate one of the limbs, pratyahara, which is withdrawal of the senses, moving from outer to inner, awareness of what's right here. And just welcoming what's right here. Notice your foundation, whatever's at the ground. Connect in and feel the support that's there for you. Without needing to change anything, just notice your hands as they are. Allow them to be just as they are. Begin to notice and observe your breath. Can you just be a witness without adding anything to it? your breath or your body or any other tool for anchoring your attention. Let yourself come into that attention and hold it lightly. Notice if there's a grasping, holding on to the anchor. That might be a lack of aparigraha. Sometimes the grasping shows up in our practice here. If your mind wanders, or maybe when your mind wanders, can you bring an awareness to it? And maybe there's a half smile of recognition without any self-harm. No self-judgment. Just awareness. Consider that non-violence, not harming, starts with us. hurt people hurt people. Some of that hurt might be self-inflicted. Not enough. If you notice those thoughts coming up, ask yourself, is it true? If you're like me, you might sometimes think other people aren't enough. It's also a good time to ask, is it true? When the thoughts come in here as we practice, we shift back to our breath or our anchor. Come into what's actual, what's real right here, your breath, maybe the feeling of your hands, the warmth. Notice the just isness of this moment without adding anything on. You're okay. You might even be good. your breath. And then one more kind of big clearing out. Coming back into your body. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Stretch if you need to. Insights? One quick story. I've been watching the Olympics as much as I can. And they do those little vignettes where they kind of tell a person's story, one of the athlete's stories. And there was this story yesterday that I saw about a swimmer. I don't remember his name, and I'll probably mess up the actual facts. But the story was that he had won something like 12 gold medals. And when he came back from the last Olympics, he went into a depression. And he had this story in his head of every mistake he'd made. You know, he had his examples of like, didn't swim this part right, didn't do the turn right, whatever it was. And like, he won gold, and he was still not, in his own mind, good enough. And I mean, in the story, his wife was interviewed, and you could tell visibly that it was really hard on her. And he worked with a therapist. He came out in television and said, you know, I've been working with a therapist for 4 years to start to feel good enough. And it's, you know, like, we don't know people's stories, but no matter how great we are, we all have our own point of view, and a lot of the time it's a self-harming point of view. And sometimes that actually comes out on other people because we've got just our own pain and suffering about ourselves, and it needs to get out. And that's not part of his story. I'm not implying that he did that to anybody, but just these practices are so important for us to just be still enough to see what's happening for us and start to redirect, right? We are enough. And if we can sit still long enough and learn that, that's the goal. So anyways, I hope you guys have a really good day, full of goodness, non-harming for yourself and others. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.